In this session, we will talk about the object-oriented programming principle, inheritance. Inheritance, as the name suggests, is a process of inheriting features. Inheritance is a technique of building new classes from an existing class by inheriting its features. And the features include different attributes and methods. Let's understand inheritance using an example. So here on the screen, I have defined two classes. On the left hand side of the screen, we have a class basic cake, which defines an init method which lists down the ingredients, and there's another method procedure which describes the process or the procedure to make a basic cake. And to the right hand side, I have defined another class, chocolate cake, which has two methods, which defines the list of ingredients and then the procedure to make a chocolate cake. If you observe carefully, most of the code in these classes has been repeated or duplicated. And in the programming world, duplicate code is not recommended. We should not have multiple copies of the same or similar code in different places. There are many ways to merge similar pieces of code or objects with similar functionality. In this example, I have defined a class cake, which again has two methods, the init method and then the procedure method. And then I have also defined another class, chocolate cake. But this time I have passed the class that I've defined above, cake, as a parameter to this new class, chocolate cake. And this is how we tell Python that the new class should be inherited or derived from the existing class. The new class is called child class or a subclass. The existing class is called the parent class or superclass or the base class. Coming to our child class or subclass chocolate cake, I have defined an init method here, and these are the parameters that I've passed to the child class's init method. And I have initialized the instance attribute self.cocoa. All other parameters, flour, sugar, butter, and eggs, have already been initialized in the parent class's init method. And now we have to make a call to the parent class's init method in order to initialize all of these attributes. So how do we do that? And for this, I'm going to use the super function. The super function enables us to access the methods and the attributes of a parent class without referring to the parent class by name. Using super, the instance of the parent object is retrieved first, and then the init method is called on that object, passing in the arguments here, the flour, sugar, butter, and eggs. In our example, the super function is a built-in function which returns a proxy object that allows us to refer parent class by super. So instead of calling the init method using the class name, we call the init method using the built-in function super, so that we can easily change the parent class name when required. So by inheriting the attributes from the parent class, a lot of duplicate code has been avoided in the child class, and inheritance enables us to define a child class that takes all the functionality from a parent class and also allows us to add more. So let's see some examples in the Jupyter notebook. Let's discuss another example in the Jupyter notebook. Here I have defined a class school, and in this class there is an init method. So these are the two parameters that we have passed to the init method, the school name and then the location. And then we have initialized the instance attributes. Now let's execute this cell, and then let us create an instance of this class school. So let's say the instance is A, B, C, and then we will pass the arguments A, B, C, school, the location. So A, B, C is an object of the class school. Now, I am also going to create another class called teacher. So let's do that. I have defined another class teacher, and this time the existing class school has been passed as a parameter to the teacher class. So the class school is the parent class and the class teacher is the child class. And in the new class or the child class, I have defined an init method. The init method has these parameters: the teacher name, subject, school name, and location. And then we have initialized all of these attributes. And we know that we should not have multiple copies of the same or similar code in different places. So we need to have a way in order to make a call to the parent class's init method in order to initialize these attributes. And for that, we can make use of the super function. So we are going to comment the duplicate code in the child class's init method and then make a call to the parent class's init method. For that, let's use the super function, super dot, and super returns the object as an instance of the parent class, allowing us to call the parent method directly. So let's call the init method on the parent class's instance, underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and we want to initialize the attributes school name and location. So using inheritance, a lot of duplicate code has been removed. Now let's add another method to the parent class. Now to the parent class, I have added a new method details which prints the school name and the location. So here is the instance of the school class. So let's call the details method abc.details. So here we have the details of the school. Now let us create an instance of the class teacher, that is the child class. So let's call this instance as Melinda, and then the arguments to this class, that is the child class, are the teacher name and the subject, school name, ABC school, and then location. Let's execute this. The class teacher is a child class and it has inherited the attributes and the methods of the parent class school. We can call the methods of the parent class which have not been defined in the child class. So let's call the details method using an instance of the child class. Melinda dot details. Let's call the method details using the child class instance. Execute it. So you have the school name and the location displayed. Now I want to add few more details, or I want to add more code to the method details, which also displays the name of the teacher and the subject that she teaches. In the child class, I have added another method details. And this method defined in the child class has the same name as the method in the parent class school. So what is going to happen if you call the details method on a child class's instance? Now let us call the details method. This time we have called the details method using the child class's instance, and the details method of the child class has been accessed, and this is known as overriding. Overriding is the ability of a class to change the implementation of a method provided by one of its parent classes. So instead of implementing the method provided by the parent class, that is the details method in the parent class, using method overriding, we have implemented the method that is defined in the child class. So using inheritance, we can implement the methods defined in the parent class. But if we override the methods in the child class, the methods provided by the parent class will not be considered at all. Next, say for example, apart from displaying the teacher name and the subject, you also want to display the school name and the location in the output. When you implement the details method in the child class, that is the teacher class, but we already have a method in the parent class school through which we are displaying the school name and the location. We can make a call to the details method of the parent class using the super function. So using the super function, we can call the overridden method of the parent class from inside the child class. So as of now, we cannot implement the details method of the parent class. That's because the details method of the child class is being implemented, and both these methods have the same name. If you want to make a call to the overwritten method of the parent class, you can use the super function. So not just in the init method, the super function can also be used in other methods. So super dot, this time we are going to make a call to the details method of the parent class, and we are not going to pass any parameters. Execute this. Now when you call the details method, in the output we see all of the attributes displayed. The first two attributes are being displayed using the details method of the child class, and the last two attributes, school name and location, are being displayed using the details method of the parent class.